I did not mean for a moment to defend science in the very narrow sense as experimental science, men in white lab coats scanning brains as the only source of morality. And that's really a straw man. I mean science in a much broader sense, the sort that Steve invoked, of secular rationality and honest truth claims based on honest observation and honest and clear reasoning. And we all are citizen scientists in many of our, or honorary scientists in many of our moments. And insofar as we're intellectually honest and trying to have our beliefs about the world and our certainty about those beliefs kind of scale with the evidence. And that is the source of clear thinking about the possibilities of human and animal well-being. The crucial thing I want to argue for is that what do we mean when we say that something can be morally good or evil? And is that a truth claim, or is that just merely manufactured based on cultural invention or something that's been drummed into us by evolution and is just a product of our social emotions and emotions like disgust? There are two very different ideas about how science can lead us to strong truth claims about the nature of good and evil. One, somewhat advocated by Peter here, is that science is limited in describing kind of how we got here. So we have evolutionary science, which tells a story about how we got here, and we can understand what people do and mean in the name of morality in those terms. But it can never make the leap to tell us what we should do. And I think that there's confusion there, because it's one thing to ask, how is it that people come, basically every culture we've ever encountered has come to feel that women are in some sense the property of men. We can tell an evolutionary story about why that's so. We can tell a neurobiological story about what men are doing with their brains when they think that. But we can, in the spirit of science, we can ask a very different question. It's a totally different project, and we can ask, to what degree do people and societies become better? Which is to say, to what degree do they experience greater depths of well-being when they cease to treat women that way? And the answers there, whether or not any of us know them, are answers that fall within our growing scientific understanding of the human mind and all of the ways in which we can see the influences upon it. And again, that is not just laboratory science. That's from genetics to economics. And still, that's a domain of right and wrong answers, and it is not tied to evolution in any narrow sense. We have flown the perch of evolution, and most of what we care about, evolution cannot see and has never seen. Evolution has not designed us to build a stable global civilization, and yet clearly our future happiness is largely predicated on that.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you a question, Sam? Because we've had some discussion during the break, and maybe I did take your view of science too narrowly, in which case I apologize. But you just said you want this broader view of science from genetics to economics. Now, I know that if in other cultures, for example, if you think of the German term Wissenschaft, which we often translate as science, it includes philosophy and ethics, as any serious study of a phenomenon. So I wondered why, if you would say not just from genetics to economics, but from genetics to philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's all counts as science, then perhaps we don't really have a disagreement, because we certainly share the view that not only science, but careful thought and rational reflection is how we're going to advance ethics, not through, for example, religious belief or just taking things on faith.
Yeah, absolutely. I think philosophy, there is no clear border between philosophy and science. What I meant to denigrate in my opening remarks are some of the arguments in philosophy that I think are truly useless, and the conceptual distinctions that I think are leading us to miss the very obvious point that there's a difference between the worst possible misery and the greatest possible happiness, whatever that is, and even if there are multiple forms of it. And those differences are fully constrained by the laws of nature. So there have to be right answers, and the right answers are not predicated on whether we can find them. And we do science in the context of that larger reality, which we may fail to fully discover. In fact, we know we will fail to fully discover it, and yet this includes every possible claim we can make in the moral sphere. And the idea in philosophy currently is that that is an incredibly edgy and controversial thesis in moral philosophy and metaethics. And I frankly just don't see how it could be, given that every possible experience is only possible based on the nature of the way the universe is.
Could I just ask about that? I mean, it's one